Hello there.
Hello.
Friends, lovers. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir. I'm Robert.
I'm Amy.
And you know who you are. Thank you for joining us. See you in the chat. We have friends and lovers and aliens in the chat.
Yes.
I hope they're legal aliens. It is 2025.
Are legal aliens to me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. This is Sunday, March 30th. Just about at the end of that month. Just about used it up, wrung it out, got all the goodness out of it. March 30th, 2025, the 89th day. 89. That means yesterday was Piano Day, the 88th day. I hope some of you keyboard players out there got a chance to tickle the ivories. 89th day of 2025. After today, you've got 276 days. It just sounds so generous, like reality or the revolutions of the Earth on its axis are so generous. 276 days left remaining in this year. Christmas, excuse me. We're elbowing each other here. A little studio modification going on. 276 days left in the year. 270 days until Christmas, Halloween, and 215. Since I know somebody, or at least one somebody, maybe several somebodies, is going to ask.
We actually saw skeletons adorning a couple of houses today. It was
there
great.
There are houses out there that never took. You know, we would kind of snigger at, not snigger. Snigger sounds like a bad word. Not just because it sounds like a bad word, but it itself sounds like a bad word. We would criticize people who waited too long to take down their Christmas lights, God forbid, or is it Jesus forbid? We're talking about Christmas. Jesus forbid that they didn't take it down at all. Well, we've got people leaving their Halloween stuff up all year. And some friends of ours, for example, down in Florida, you know who you are, have been saying, yeah, there's this great house that, leaves up its 20-foot skeleton and it's,
I love those skeletons.
16-foot skeleton dinosaur and the 12-foot skeleton dog. And God, take that stuff down. I love Halloween in its time and in its place. But yeah, I know, Amy, you love it all year. So yes. Halloween at 215 days. Summer is in 82 days. And that is, again, also Robert's 9th annual rock and roll picnic. I'll remind you more of that, those of you who are in or will be in Southeast Michigan, for that start of summer picnic. And finally, Easter is in 21 days. I will be asking you as we get closer to that Easter holiday, in which we celebrate spring and the rebirth, the rebirth of decent weather. I know. There are people who live in places where it's warm all year, and summer is actually too hot. But, we broadcast live. I was asked about that recently. When you guys edit your podcast, you say, no, we don't edit everything we do is live. We do it all live, mistakes and all.
Yes, many mistakes.
So, summer matters here in Motown in Detroit, Michigan. We are just outside the city, but close enough that you can hear the gunshots. So, call it Motown. Absolutely. And, Easter in 21 days, and I'm going to want you to share with me your favorite Easter treats, but we'll do that when we get close, unless you want to put it in the chat now. The chat is busy, the chat is full, and I love to see the conversations going on.
Yes.
And a couple of real quick on the dates. And let's do this, and let's tie them all together. I'm drinking coffee tonight. We've had some shows recently when I was drinking other things, but we're back to coffee, my mainstay. I may go back to the original 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir wardrobe, but no, we've got the lemon shirt on. Coffee and the lemon shirt. Why? Well, when life gives you lemons, well, we'll tell you what to do in just a minute. But on this date, March 30th, 1971, Starbucks opens its first store in Seattle's Pike Place Market. I never knew that. I always wondered why one of their most common blends that you see in the stores and Keurig cups and all that too is Pike Place, not Pike's Place or Pike's Peak, but Pike Place. But apparently Pike Place was the name of the market where they opened their first Starbucks. If you are a coffee drinker and if you like Starbucks at all, as I do, it is a good day to celebrate. 3 years after that, John Denver hits his first #1 hit with, no, not Country Roads, Sunshine on My Shoulders.
Yes.
Yeah, he was actually trying to write a sad song.
Oh.
And there's some, slightly melancholy lines in there, Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. So he was trying to write a sad song, but no,
Beautiful.
it came out as Sunshine on My Shoulders. And big hit. He said he was trying to write a sad song, but this is what came out. Well, whatever I'm trying to do, I wish I could come up with a song that good. We've got to work on that. We've got to get back to songwriting.
Yes, we do.
We haven't written anything in ages, and we're at the right age. Okay, jump forward 8 years. March 30th again. Ronald Reagan, President Reagan.
You know, he really loved jelly beans, and not just for Easter. So there.
What he didn't like was getting shot, and this is the day that he was shot. Did you know John Hinckley Jr. is actually out of jail?
What's he doing?
He's writing music and he's producing record albums and.
What?
I know they should not say John Hinckley Jr. is a musician. He doesn't deserve the title, because if you tell me somebody's a musician, if you tell me you're a musician, even if you just have an old six string and you plonk 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 on it, I immediately have more respect for you. So I don't know. I don't think the guy who shot Ronald Reagan should be called a musician. He should be called a bad guy. But no, he's out there doing. What happened was, you remember, he was kind of crazy. He was psychotic. He was convinced that Jodie Foster was going to be in his life. He watched the film Taxi Driver, very intense, if you know the movie, something like 10 or 12 times before deciding that in order to win over Jodie Foster, he needed to shoot the President of the United States. And fortunately, Reagan was not killed, although he got much more than his ear grazed. Ricochet off his chest, broken rib, and yeah, it was serious stuff. Let's see, that was March 30th, this date. He did recover and was released from the hospital on April 11th. So 12 days of recovery from that.
Ugh, wow.
I don't mean to criticize our certain president, but this was more than a bandage on the ear. This was serious. It's very tragic, too, because a couple of his Secret Service people were also injured. And famously, Brady, what was his first name? James. Yeah, Jim Brady suffered brain damage, permanently disabled. And when Brady finally died in 2014, it was actually written up as a homicide.
Yeah. Well, John Hinckley Jr. got out of prison June 2022.
Yep. And he was in a psychiatric prison.
Yeah, and it says that Michael Reagan, Reagan's son, spoke out in favor of the decision.
As a good Christian does.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, at some point, 35, 40 years later, what the hell difference does it make? As long as the guy's no longer nuts and all of that. But be that as it may, if anybody's going to say, okay, he should be able to go, he should be forgiven, it shouldn't be Reagan's son. We've done episodes on forgiveness. And those of you who are Ayn Rand fans, the objectivists out there, you already know about forgiveness, that forgiveness can be rational. And when it is rational, it should certainly happen. With the exception that if you have lost something important to you, then you're perfectly rational to say, I simply can't forgive that.
Well, I mean, thankfully, Ronald Reagan survived the shooting, but still.
A very good point. Yeah, he did survive. That's true.
But still. Boy, oh boy. All right.
Okay, on this date, we jump forward to the birth of Vincent van Gogh. Now, I know there are some...
What you say?
Yes, I hear you. Speaking of ear injuries...
Ears.
Self-inflicted ear... Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you may think that other ear injury was self-inflicted too. But either way, Vincent van Gogh, it is his birthday today. And in the links on YouTube, in the show description, and on Facebook, which is a little different, and I'll get to that in a minute, I included for Vincent van Gogh's birthday... Some of you have already seen it, and even if you have, you'll watch it again and you'll get tears in your eyes. It's so charming. The Doctor Who episode featuring Vincent van Gogh. I won't even describe it for you, because if you haven't seen it before, I don't want there to be any spoilers, but do watch that clip of Vincent van Gogh and Doctor Who. I mean, just so you know, so you're not confused, it is fiction. It's not the real Vincent van Gogh.
And it's not the real Doctor Who.
And it's not the real Doctor Who. It's a television show. But, yeah, no, you should definitely watch that. Incidentally, you notice I put a link to everything we talk about in the show notes. There are 2 links under Vincent van Gogh's birthday, because I've also put a link to Jonathan Dawn's blog, his Substack blog, Philosophy, I Need It. And there's a good write-up in there for Vincent van Gogh's birthday. You should click that. You should subscribe to Jonathan's Substack if you are not already. I'm going to go through a couple other birthdays real quick. I'm just going to rattle them off. Because, and happily, all of these birthdays, these are people still alive. Starting with John Astin. He's 95 years old.
Amazing.
Yes. Gomez Adams is still with us, 95
original.
years old. Yes, the best.
I love that show, The Addams Family.
Yes. Yeah, John Astin. What a guy. Just his personality, his style, the charm. Silly, but yet admirable, and just too much. Yeah. Incidentally, some people know Sean Astin. His son is an actor as well. I think I mentioned before my favorite Sean Astin film would have to be also my favorite Brendan Fraser film, Encino Man. Ridiculous, and I love it. Probably because my daughter was the right age for that kind of comedy, and we played that videotape, I don't even know how many times. Also birthdays, Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton did some problematic things recently. He has expressed some bad opinions. And if he wasn't one of the world's greatest guitarists and wrote some of the world's greatest songs and worked with some of the other greatest performers of all time, starting obviously way back to the Beatles, yes, the guitar solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps is Eric Clapton playing, one of the few musicians besides Billy Preston to play with the Beatles.
That's right.
So I won't even get into the criticisms. I will just say happy birthday, Eric Clapton, 80 years old today. Where are we go? Oh, 19 years younger is Tracy Chapman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give me one reason to wish Tracy Chapman a happy birthday.
Very funny. She gets a fast car for her birthday.
Fast car for her birthday. There you go. Very nice. Celine Dion. We pick on Celine Dion for singing some very, very passionate songs. Some people would say syrupy. She's 57 years old today. Celine Marie Claudette Dion.
She sang beautifully at the Olympics, the last Olympics in Paris.
She's amazing.
It was really amazing. Plus her health concerns and everything like that, and getting through those obstacles. Yeah. So, hats off to her.
Yes.
Boop.
Hats off. Darn right. I lift my hat to you, Céline. She sang one of her early hits. The big, dramatic, way too much was, it's all coming back to me now. Did you know, you might, because I mentioned it once, maybe years ago, that was written by Jim Steinman.
Really?
Who we just lost in 2021. Jim Steinman is famous for being the musical partner, of course, of Meatloaf.
Yeah.
And the two of them constructed the Bat Out of Hell, not just the album, this entire universe. And this whole way of creating big operatic, but with motorcycles and dragons and crazy rock and roll aesthetic. And that song that Celine Dion sang, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, is part of the mythos, part of their...
It sounds like it would be. Now that I think about it, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, incidentally, Total Eclipse of the Heart. And think of the video with, vampires and all the drama there. It was also a Jim Steinman tune. No surprise
that one
there.
I like better.
So happy birthday, Celine Dion, 57 years old. And one more, Norah Jones.
Oh.
Geethali Norah Jones Shankar.
Right. She was the
46
daughter.
years old.
She was the estranged daughter of Ravi Shankar.
Yes, Ravi Shankar did not stay with Norah Jones's mother that long, but that was the American relationship he had. And whatever she did or didn't inherit, she inherited a tremendous musical sense and great voice. So happy birthday, Norah Jones. She's just 46 today.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful, wonderful. Other than that, today, B.S.T, British Summertime.
Are we finally on B.S.T?
B.S.T, and I discussed it 3 weeks ago. I hate when they change the clocks or compel us to change the clocks. But finally, the U.S., the colonies, and Britain, the island back home, we're in sync again, or rather we're in the out of sync that we are normally, which is 5 hours difference. So I apologize to those of you watching in the UK for having to stay up later now for the rest of the summer. But it is what it is. Man, I hope someday they will get the sense that we're going to cut it out. What we've been calling summertime, that's just what it's going to be forever. And sure, it'll change. You'll change your habits in the wintertime. So what? It's also National Pencil Day. Did you know a pencil? A regular average...
iPencil.
iPencil. You know, it's funny you say that. The link that you'll see in the show description is to the essay iPencil.
Oh,
Leonard Reed's essay there about what it takes to construct a pencil, what it takes to source the wood, what it takes to put together the graphite. You know, people say lead in a pencil. It's not lead. It's a combination of carbon and graphene, and then what it takes to make the eraser, and that little metal piece that holds the eraser in, and all of the supply chain coordination that takes. And the point is, something as simple as a pencil requires 1,000 different decisions, the judgment of countless people. And what makes a pencil possible is that each one of those people, it's in their own rational self-interest. And they follow their own reasoning, their own logic, their own intelligence to make all of those things happen. And then you can sit here with a pencil that costs you like 8 cents. And you can write 45,000 words with the average lead pencil. Because of freedom.
Thank you, freedom.
So, happy pencil. I don't know if National Pencil Day came from the Foundation for Economic Education or FEE, or I forget what it was called in Leonard Reed's day. But might have been, somebody in the chat will probably tell us. But happy Pencil Day. If you are one of those people who rarely, if ever, actually picks up a pen or a pencil and writes, consider that. Find yourself a sheet of paper and just do some writing. You can do it by rote. You can write out your favorite poem. You can write out the Invictus. You can write out If by Rudyard Kipling. There's so many great things. You know, why would I write that out? I look it up on the internet and read it. No, it's different when you do it by your own hand. Have some fun with that. Finally, the last holiday and our theme for the evening. I have no idea where this came from. I'm guessing somebody pulled it out of their imagination. It's National I Am in Control Day. You know,
of what?
You know you're in trouble when they don't say, self-control day or self-esteem day, or no, it's National I Am in Control Day. Yeah, in control of what?
Only of the things that you can be in control of.
That's true. The metaphysical and the man-made distinction comes in here. Well, but, God, I woke up in a bad mood today. And tired. I had way too little sleep. And it seemed to be, as sometimes happens, a result of particular dreams that I had. And what your body does when you have certain dreams and you sleep in an uncomfortable position. And you just wake up like... And it's weird because I think everybody should be... Well, here's an insight. I think everybody should be happy all the time. And yet, as a master of state management, I didn't feel any desire to change my state.
Oh, this morning?
And that's a tough conundrum, because one of the prerequisites of being happy is you've actually got to want to be happy. I know a lot of people who think, well, I'm not happy, but that's because, and then, shortcomings in their family, or the president of the United States, or, this other guy, the neighbors are making too much noise, or 10,000 other things. But I want to be happy, right? Don't you want to be happy? Well, yeah, I could be happy, but a bare minimum is you've actually got to want it. I woke up this morning and I know all the things I would have to do to be happy, and I don't want to do any of them.
Well, I gotta say, sometimes it's okay not to be happy.
Exactly.
It really
right.
is.
Exactly right.
You can you can ease into whatever else you need to do, and then maybe your state will change, but you don't have to push yourself or demand to yourself, like be fake about it, in other words, or try to push yourself into it. Yeah.
If you're unhappy, there are reasons why you're unhappy. They might be good reasons, they might be bad reasons, but there are reasons. And as I've mentioned before, if you short circuit that every time it happens, eventually your tips, your techniques, your ways of changing your state, they won't work. And the things that your own psychology or your own circumstances, what that was trying to tell you won't get told. That story will be unsaid. Your feelings are trying to tell you something. You don't follow them blindly, but you do say, oh, I'm feeling something. I need to figure out why. I need to use logic and reason, and most of all, I need to introspect. I need to really cut through my own thinking, which incidentally is best done with a pencil or a pen or a computer, but externally, you've got to write it out. If you just do it in your own head, you won't know any more than you already know. Now, if you want to dig through it, you got to get it out there. Under shameless self-promotion, what are we listening to this week? And yes, I'm deliberately changing the topic so we can then get out and back into it. You'll see why. What I've been listening to or watching this week is the television series Ted Lasso. And yes, I've already watched it all the way through, and I'm doing it again. It's so good. It's so damn good. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso yet, you need to watch it. If there are logistical reasons for not watching it, oh, I don't have Apple TV. I don't have a device that I can use to watch Apple TV. Change that. Now, normally I would say, well, if you can, if it's in your budget. No, I'm not going to say any of that. I'm going to say you are an irrational evader if you don't address that and change it. I'm kidding, of course, but there's a reason why I say it that way. Either way, definitely do watch Ted Lasso, and if you have already seen it before, watch it again. It holds up well to repeated watchings. And if you have seen it, but you haven't seen my podcast about it yet, there is a link in the show notes to The Wisdom of Ted Lasso with Life on Earth with Robert Nasir. And that is in there as well. And the reason that ties up with managing your state, one of the great things about Ted Lasso is the main character is this not just positive and friendly and optimistic person, but a person who sees the best in people if it's there to be seen. And, in that podcast I mentioned that I did on it, I talked about the show. And this will be minor spoiler for some of you. There's a character in the show who kind of goes bad and eventually comes back to being a good person, a decent person, a likable character.
A redemption story.
A redemption story. And one of the people who watched that said, was that character's redemption convincing to you? I might have missed part of it, and maybe it would have been more convincing on a second watch. And the answer to that person, KWay32, I don't see that name much anymore. So this is a while back. It was a year ago that I did that. Was the redemption convincing to you? I might have missed part of it, and maybe it would be more convincing on a second watch. I had to answer. Yes, it was convincing in a very TV dramedy kind of way. A television show, you can stretch things to make your plot work, but also there were 3 reasons. Now, think about this in terms of any redemption story, or maybe in terms of, your own changes you'd like to make in your own life. Number 1, the character's initial corruption, going from good to bad. It was similarly a stretch, far-fetched, but it was driven by multiple circumstances and specific incidences, like from his father, to things as simple as the photograph that he thought Ted Lasso, didn't put up on the office wall, and he took that as a real insult, but it turns out Ted had actually put it in an even more, personal and important place to him. So these were forces beyond the character's own fundamental goodness, decency. Number 2, despite all of that, this character is enormously intelligent. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. Which multiplied both the frustration and the absurdity of being so deeply unappreciated or because he thought he was deeply unappreciated. But the main thing, the number 3, that makes the redemption believable, and think about this for yourself, or for anybody you know, especially anybody you know who you find you are deeply critical of. On top of all the different incidents that lead up to his redemption, this is a character who actually wanted to be redeemed. Mm-hmm. This is a character who wanted to be good. Consider, if you know the show, consider Rupert Mannion, which is great fun. His evil character is played by the same actor who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yes, the TV series, in which case he was the charming, older mentor. In this case, he's really evil. Or Edwin Afuko, the Ghanan, the guy from Ghana who wants to start a team, and when he doesn't get everything he wants, he becomes incredibly vindictive. Just evil, bad, nasty, and quirky evil, which, of course, if you're going to be entertainingly evil, you've got to have quirks. Neither one of these characters is redeemed, and neither one of these characters wants to be redeemed. They don't want to be good people. Whereas in Ted Lasso, the character, for example, Nate, does underneath it all want to be good and want to be a friend of good people and do good things. So I say, you have to want to be happy. And in a case like this, as I give the example, you have to want to be good. If you're not good, but you have excuses, if you're not good, but you have reasons for not being good, if you're not ambitious, if you're like, I can't go out and get a job in anything that I love, I'm going to keep working at Taco Plaza, which incidentally I used to do. Or I'm not going to work, I'm going to live on the dole because I just have too many issues. You got to be more selfish than that. Well, yeah, you got to be more selfish. What could possibly be more selfish than living on the dole? No, you got to want more than that for yourself, for your own sake. Similarly, if you've got a job, but you're like, I should have a different job. I should have a better job. I'm better than this. I think you're right. And you've got to want that. You got to want it so much you're going to do something about it. Well, the hard part is changing your state, of breaking out. That is so hard.
So, Robert, you were talking about a couple of characters who just who didn't want to be good, who didn't want to be redeemed.
Yes. And
I think there's some a couple of integrations I've just had about psychologically you need to be able to see yourself as good. You need to be able to envision yourself as living in the world and doing good things and doing virtuous things and not being self-destructive, but actually being life-affirming and holding values and keeping them and gaining them. It reminded me of the virtue of pride, and the idea of moral ambitiousness, which is kind of how pride is defined in a lot of circles. But the idea of being ambitious about being moral. And that goes into your own view of yourself as being good, of having pride, of having self-esteem, but having pride, and really making it a point to point out to yourself when you are doing good, so that you can say, yeah, I can see myself being good. I think a lot of people who are rotten or evil or corrupt or vicious, and they do it in a habitual way, they really can't see themselves as being good. It's like the scale has tipped, and there's no going back, and they can't be any different. And oftentimes that, we're talking about the nature of evil and the idea of how people view themselves as victims. It was society that made me what I was. And I mean, that's a rationalization, and that's, accepting determinism. But that, that's an obstacle. But fundamentally, they choose not to see themselves as being good. They choose not to envision themselves as having a moral and ambitious life. They see themselves as never being able to be proud of themselves. Yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts on those characters.
Yeah. Couple things real quick. Christopher Smith in the chat says, I think it's possible to want to be happy, but not being. Like clinical depression, for example. Usually whenever I talk about positivity, I try to remember to give the disclaimer that if you're not happy, it doesn't mean you're necessarily, or even likely to be, immoral, bad in some way. And I would never want to give that impression because, Christopher, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of reasons why it's not just as simple as saying, well, I want to be happy. No, some of us are facing real challenges. If somebody that you really care about just passed away, or if you've got a real psychological challenge, the kind that requires medication, and even then it's hard to overcome. Or if you've just gone through a difficult childhood and you find it's difficult to overcome your own personal ghosts. I don't mean to be critical. I want to empower you, but I don't want to criticize you. One thing that's unique about Ayn Rand's ideas, those of you who are objectivists out there and looking in the chat, I'm saying, that's the majority. Ayn Rand shared the perspective of Aristotle that pride, think of what most people mean by pride. But Amy, you're right. Pride is moral ambition. Pride is wanting the good in your life and being willing to take action to make it happen. But moral ambition. Wow. That's a concept. Those of us who've heard 1,000 times, we're used to it. We don't think anything of it. But consider what the average person thinks pride is. Pride is something you can give somebody with a ribbon or a trophy. Or pride is something false, like fake self-esteem. Or pride is the root of all evils. And so yes, moral ambition. The desire to be good. Absolutely. A couple more things from the chat here. Akira Felix says, I'm of the mindset you can't spoil a good show, book, or story. If it's good regardless of you knowing anything about it. Akira, you are right. But at the same time, I am one who avoids spoilers. Yes, my favorite films and books and several other things, they do stand repeated viewing. So even if I know that the question, who is John Galt, is rhetorical, or maybe not. Maybe there's a real John Galt in this. Even if I already know that, I can still enjoy the book. Doesn't change the fact, though, that there's a real delight the first time through. That's why when I go to see, for example, rock concerts, pop music concerts, I try to avoid spoilers. I try to avoid knowing going in every song that's going to be played. There's a certain delight that comes from surprises. So I agree, but also there's still room for that first-time experience. Greg Lewis asks, do those links come with an abundance of time to indulge in them? Normally, this is where I say, if that's your question, I want you to start a journal, and you only need to do this for a few days. This is not the rest of your life. But start a journal writing down what you do. If it takes 2 minutes or less, don't bother to write it down. If it takes 5 minutes or more, do write it down. And anything in between, use your own best judgment. But look at where your time in your day goes. And then figure out, well, here's where, I enjoyed all of it. It was all good. Or it was all important things that needed to happen. But here's where, I took, half an hour to make a dinner that I could have done in 15, but I was just feeling casual. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a few minutes I could have gotten somewhere else. And I took a half an hour and I watched a television show, and I took 20 minutes here to do something trivial or played a game. And if I had something more important to do, I would have done that. And then start rearranging. The reason why I say if I was talking to anybody else but Greg in the chat is because I already know Greg is one of the world-class journalers. Greg is enormously self-aware. And Greg, if you don't have time to look at all the links in the show description, you're right. You probably don't have time for all of that. But if something sounds especially interesting or tantalizing to you, I'm sure you can rearrange your schedule to make time for at least one or two of those.
Well, you can always try doing one link a day.
Yeah.
I don't think they're long. I don't think you put a lot of content in there, but
no.
Yeah.
No. Now, one of the
Yeah.
links that I put in there is a link to 12 strategies to improve your self-control. I've talked before about state management. You can change your state.
Now, are you talking about like trying to get yourself to be motivated, or are you talking about improving your mood?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And you'll see why in a second. Because I'm going to give you one I don't think I've done before. And it's this. Anything that comes in a 5, you just hold your hand up. That's cool. So what are your 5 senses? Somebody's going to come into the chat and they're going to say, well, no, there's more than 5 senses. Because there's that sense of gut that's not a feeling. It's different. It's et cetera, et cetera. What are the 5? What are the big 5? The big 5 senses.
There's a sense of dance and a sense of music and a sense of painting. We've been going over the Romantic Manifesto, but no, we all know what they are. So,
we all know what they are.
Yep.
And what I want for you, in order to manage your mood, is to figure out, well, what are the inputs to those 5 sentences that change my state, that change my mood, that get me from where I am to where I want to be. And the reason why to hold up the big 5 and to consider it in terms of 5 senses is because you need some way to remember them. I've talked before, if you want to increase your level of self-awareness and situational awareness, sit up straight. Get those shoulders back. Don't hunch down. Chin in. Not like this, like trying to make a double chin, but just like this. Eyes forward. And don't look up at the sky, because that would cheer you up too much. Just look straight forward, and you will feel the energy. But not just the energy. You'll feel the awareness. You will see where you are, whether you are in a room or outdoors or in your car or whatever it is. And it will start affecting other senses. So I gave you that one already, and we'll do that again another time. But no, the 5 senses one is just think specifically about what you see right now. You might be watching us on a screen, or you might just be listening and looking at and even working on something else. But whatever you see, take a moment and think about what you see. See what you see. Sounds kind of ridiculous, but distance yourself from being in the moment and see what you are seeing. And the interesting thing is you can then break it down. Am I seeing something bright, or am I seeing something dark? Is it colorful, or is it unsaturated? Is it moving or not? What all of the things you would adjust if you were adjusting a picture. What is the hue? What is the saturation? What is the contrast? What is the brightness? But also, what is, like in a story, what is the action? And even if it's a still image, what does it mean to me and what I'm doing? And this is all just vision. And then you can say, well, what do I hear? It's interesting. You can kind of hear the air. Part of that is just your own ears doing their things. There is a sound there. And if your hearing is good enough, you can hear what's going on outside. This time of year, you might hear birds. You might even hear the squirrels. A few months back, you heard cicadas. Whatever is going on outside. But also, you can hear your own rustling, the movement of your body against the fabrics on your back, and where you're sitting or where you're standing and walking across the floor. All of the different things that you can hear. Like, Robert, why are we going? What the hell? And the answer is, wherever you were a couple minutes ago, now you are in these modalities. And you can think, what do I taste right now? Well, I taste coffee. And what do I smell? I don't smell anything. There's nothing to smell. Well, take a moment. Is the house, do I have fresh air in the house because I've had the windows open? Or is it musty? Does it feel musty? Do I still smell lunch that was in the oven earlier? What do I feel? What do I see? What do I hear? What is my taste in my mouth and my olfactory sense? And by engaging with each one of those, and then to the extent you can change them, you can change your state to whatever you want it to be, because there's an endless range there. And if there is nothing in your house that smells different, and again, whether that's candles or bath bombs or food, put bread in the oven. Greg knows all about that. He is a baker extraordinaire. You can change these things. Or you can just think about them in ways that are empowering. What would I see? What would I feel? Feel, not emotionally, in my body, if I was engaged with this content, this project, this thing that I need to do, or just if I was in the state I want to be in now. State management. We talked about it before. We'll do it again. I also put in a link to 12 strategies for improving your self-control. And this is a magazine article that I thought, these 12 things are all very related. I'm only going to mention one or two of them. So they start with a daily habit. In a way, this strategy is a cheat because making something a consistent habit works by making the behavior more automatic. And over time, the habit will require less self-control. So instead of improving your self-control, you use a workaround. But it turns out, and they talk about this a little bit in the article, if you get into a habit, if you get into a discipline, you end up with more discipline. If you do something as a habit, but a deliberate habit, a habit you've chosen, then it's easier to go to the next thing that you want to do, the next project you want to work on, or the next habit that you want to develop, or the next way in which you want to stop losing 5 or 10 or half an hour of minutes throughout the day so you have more time to watch the links in Robert and Amy's podcast. It's easier to do that. Do one thing right, and it's easier to do the next thing right, even if they're not related. Because now you're in that state. Now you're in that modality. It's a good article. You could read the whole thing. The link is in the show notes. Go figure. And I strongly encourage you to do that. And what underlies all of this, it's going around these days, is free will.
All right.
The fact that you do have a faculty of choice. You know, that question came up, I think it's possible to want to be happy but not being, like clinical depression. Free will is going around. I mentioned last week, people are starting to debate religion again. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, for example, was up against Michael Shermer and company. And Adam Carolla, of all people. And that's going around. People are talking about religion. Well, they're also still talking about free will and debating whether you have it. Are you determined? Is everything determined by everything that came before what's happening in this moment? So I had to go to Ayn Rand. I went to Ayn Rand and said, Ayn Rand, what is free will? Well, I went to the Ayn Rand lexicon. In the very first entry, free will is that, she says, that which you call your soul or spirit is your consciousness. And that which you call free will is your mind's freedom to think or not. The only will you have, your only freedom, the choice that controls all the choices you make and determines your life and your character. Unquote. And this is from Galt's speech, reprinted in For the New Intellectual. That which you call your soul or spirit is your consciousness. And that which you call free will is your mind's freedom to think or not. The only will you have, your only freedom, the choice that controls all the choices you make and determines your life and your character. Think about that for a second. If you followed the free will debates at all, or if you've just thought about it yourself. And people will say, why did you choose to go to the grocery store, to buy the thing that you bought, to do the thing that you did, to take the job that you did, to live where you did, to marry who you married? And in every one of those cases, imagine for a second that you're a psychologist listening to this, or you're seeing a psychologist and you're sitting on the couch. And you think of the reasons, because for every one of those things, I went to the grocery store because I needed food. I needed food because I don't want to starve to death. I don't want to starve to death because I want to live. There's always some why. It's like, the little kid's game. A kid comes up to you and says, why did you, do whatever you did? And no matter what you give the little kid, what answer you give him, he says why to that and to that and to that. And the little kid's never satisfied if you reach a point where you say, there wasn't any reason other than that's what I chose to do. That's how I chose to think about it, and that's what I chose to do about it. But that is the answer. And it's the answer to the little kid. It's the best way to stop that conversation. And if he doesn't think that's a reasonable thing to say, then you can just turn it around on him and say, okay, why do you ask? Which is kind of hard to answer why to. But that's as deep as it goes. That is the answer to the determinists. And it's the answer to anybody who says, you can't break these states, you can't break these patterns, you can't choose what mood to be in. Well, you're right, you can't choose what mood to be in. But you can choose the things that cause the moods. That is a power that you've got. And it's a responsibility you've got. It's a choice you make. So on this Vincent van Gogh's birthday, I could not resist thinking, man, I was in a lousy mood this morning and I need to turn that around. How do you do that? So I addressed all of my sensory modalities, my 5 senses, and pulled up some of my best state management techniques and had a good morning.
Yeah, so there's this thing called emotional freedom technique, or EFT.
I thought EFT was electronic funds transfer.
So it's something, I don't know, it's something out of like kind of like Chinese medicine or like acupuncture, things like that. Now it might work a little bit. I guess I haven't really tried so much of it, but it's basically you're supposed to like say statements out loud 3 times while you're doing it. Like, even though I feel anxious about work tomorrow, I deeply and completely accept myself, an aphorism of some kind. Or, what do they call them? Not aphorisms, but...
Affirmations.
Affirmations, thank you. And then you've got, let's see, so you might say these things and like tap on the center of your head, tap on the inside edge of one eyebrow, like, I guess like that. Tap next to the outside edge of one eye, like that, I guess. Tap on the bone underneath one eye, like that. Tap between your nose and your upper lip here. Tap between your lower lip and your chin. Tap between or beneath one collarbone and find the notch beneath the inside edge of the collarbone. Tap under one armpit about 4 inches below the armpit. You'll need to get your ruler out, your measuring tape. No, I haven't actually tried these. All I know is that, I actually have a friend who does this, or kind of introduced me to it a little bit. And I kind of did it, and it's sort of like, it kind of like grounds you into being in the moment, because you're doing something, you're doing something to yourself, and it doesn't hurt, but it doesn't feel good, but you're concentrating on, doing the rhythm of it, and you're feeling it from your own hand or from your own finger. And, it really takes your mind away from whatever you're talking about, and it kind of brings you a little focused. So, it kind of reminds me of when I was a little girl and I would cry. I would bump my whatever knee or whatever it is, and I would cry. And all I would need to do to stop myself from crying is drink water. Just have a few sips of water, and all of that would go away. But anyway, yeah, let me know if you've ever tried EFT or emotional freedom technique or tapping or whatever that's called, and if that actually works for you. If it does, that's great. I think it's just one of those sort of pattern interrupt sorts of concepts. But yeah, I came up with activities to boost your mood. So, with all of the politics looming about and all of these things that are very scary nowadays, it's important to be able to, relieve your anxiety, boost your mood, get yourself focused, find some strength to speak out, but live the majority of your life pursuing values, or, add some time in for these sorts of self-care sorts of things. So, of course, there's exercise, connecting with others, practicing gratitude. That helps me. I was actually in kind of a nervous situation the other day, And I just said to the people around me what I'm grateful for, or I'm grateful for being here, or however, and that really helped. Getting enough sleep, that's that's not something that I'm very good at lately, but listening to uplifting music, laughing, I can do that. Meditation and mindfulness, again, these sorts of pattern interrupts or focus exercises, decluttering your space, helping others, for those people who deserve your help, of course, and who, that you like them. That helps. Being around people that you like, that's what that is eating a healthy diet, smiling, and hugging someone. Hugs are really lovely, by the way. So, and I am a hugger, just so you know. Yeah, so that was my quick list of that. There are more, but you can look them up and just try to interrupt your patterns, interrupt what you're feeling, introspect, and if you feel so out of control that you can't introspect or focus, these sorts of these mind-body pattern interrupts are really, really nice. They can be good.
Excellent. And I think you're exactly right when you say that's what it comes down to, is pattern interrupts. And not just breaking the moment, but there was a great bit of wisdom many of us received when we were young. And parents are still giving that wisdom today, although we claim that it doesn't happen as much as it did when we were kids. And that is, when you were in a bad mood, you were sad about something, or somebody hurt your feelings, what would your mother tell you to do? Go outside and play.
Right.
And
Get outside.
What was she doing? She was changing your state. She was changing your surroundings. She was giving you other things to do in order to change what you are thinking about, what you are focused on.
Yeah, and going outside, that'll provide some exercise, and that'll get you to breathe deeply, and yeah.
In fact, in the chat, Stephen Katz says, how important do you think proper nutrition is to work performance? The answer is, depends on what you mean by proper nutrition. The challenge there is that we have so many pretty good options. But usually when somebody says proper nutrition, what they mean is, no. You should only ever eat the optimal substances. And it turns out there are a lot of people who live on just reasonably good food, but not the optimal substances, who perform very well. The short answer is, how important is proper nutrition? It's critical. It's vital. It is irreplaceable, but it depends on what you mean by proper nutrition. Same thing with exercise. How much exercise is proper exercise? If you live an active lifestyle, how much do you need to supplement that with trips to the gym? Depends on the individual. Depends on the individual lifestyle. So the answer to the question is, it's crucially important, but it includes an enormous range. Oh yeah, Tom says, I like Adam Carolla, but to be fair, he was out of his league in that debate. I thought that Carolla and Michael, his last name, I was about to say Shankar. The other guy in the, how do you lose names like that?
Well, you already said his name.
Yeah, Adam Carolla.
Shermer? No.
And Michael Shermer.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought they did a good job. And when they scored it at the end, they scored just based on how many people changed their minds. And it's super subjective, but still they won the debate. And that's a good thing. If I remember correctly, I think I do remember that correctly. And lots of other good fun in the chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. And Akira says, yeah, I feel depressed when I only eat junk food.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. And the crazy thing is that when you're kind of depressed, that's when you eat junk food. And then, of course, you feel even worse. And it's a challenging pattern to break. And breaking patterns, is what we're talking about here, pattern interrupts. But one way to break a habit like that is to write stuff down. And don't do it to make yourself feel guilty. If you're just writing down what you eat, for example, what you do by doing that is you say, oh, wow, yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't a good day. Now let's make tomorrow a better day. And you can do that. Guilt is not a good inducement. It only gets you so far, but using your awareness of what you've done that you don't want to keep doing in order to then pursue something that's going to be great. That's the way. That's the way to make it happen. I do not have a related Post-it note for the week, but I wrote a note to myself earlier, and I've been thinking about this. I wrote this note a long time ago, and then I wrote it out on paper later. Does your life look like your favorite music sounds? You know, we talked a little bit about modalities and audio, but music and art is an entirely different way to motivate yourself, to change your state, to break a pattern, to get yourself in a different mood. And music may well be, and it's been mentioned in the chat, one of the easiest and most powerful ways to do that. You do have to be a little bit careful, because if every time you're depressed you put on your favorite song, after a while your favorite song will make you feel depressed. You're reversing cause and effect. And you can do that if you've got a store of actual values. It's kind of like if somebody you really love, long relationship, family, friends, romance, whatever it is, but you've exchanged 1,000 values back and forth, and then they do something that disappoints you. And, you know, there's something morally bad. They were rude, or they, you know, snapped at you and you didn't deserve it. It doesn't matter that much, because you've got this bank account, this store. When you just think about them, you think about all these great things and this friendship and this relationship, and yeah, it's kind of makes you sad, or maybe even angry that they did whatever it was they did. But if they do it again tomorrow, and then maybe again next week and next month, and then a few times in one day, eventually they can eat away at that store of good things. And all values are like that. Heck, food is like that. You could eat junk food once, and I won't even say get away with it, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and that implies, well, it's a bad thing, but, you know, you'll recover. Yeah. Forget what I was responding to when I started saying that. But yes.
Oh, your Post-it note?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Using your favorite song to get yourself out of a bad mood. Again, you got to be careful about that stuff. You can use that stuff up, just like you can use up somebody's goodwill toward you if you fall short often enough. But yeah, the question I've been pondering: what does your life look like your favorite music sounds? When I think of my favorite, and I don't mean I'm somehow going to take, you know, the Eroica and you know, Beethoven's Third Symphony and make my life that. But do I have a certain amount of that, a certain amount of majesty, and a certain amount of passion, and even, you know, a certain amount of angst or you know, negative things as well? But yes. Does your life look like your favorite music sounds? To me, it sounds, or rather, it looks like, you know, the lighter music, the pop music, some of the rock music. Fortunately, some of the love songs and romances, but yes, we use music to get ourselves to a better state. But I think every now and then we should ask ourselves, well, what if my life looked more like my favorite music sounds? And can I make that happen?
I laugh because I don't know. I have such a mix of things that I like to listen to. You know, from punk rock to Tchaikovsky to Louise Moreau Gottschalk to Joy Division to to the B-52s. I mean, everything in between. And you know, so sometimes I listen to darker music, and I love it.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for that. Christopher Smith says, my listening habits are too disparate. You know, if you get passion from, you know, classic would be heavy metal, or, you know, pick your genre of metal, death metal, whatever it is. I would say progressive metal. You say, well, but that's, you know, really dark and really harsh. And, well, yeah, but maybe that brings out the passion that you feel when you encounter, say, the crazy stuff in the world, or even something irrational at the workplace. And yeah, you don't want to be in that state all the time. But every once in a while, you have to feel that passion. You have to feel that indignation. You have to let that stuff out and not feel repressed. And the same thing with, you know, as you say, too disparate. Now, some of it's goofy. And pop music. She blinded me with science. You're obviously not going to be an old man in a laboratory with a distractingly attractive, but that's not the point of a song like that. It's silly and it's lighthearted, but it reminds you that your own life can be silly and lighthearted and not necessarily in the exact goofy way of the song.
Yeah, Christopher in the chat mentions the word catharsis.
Catharsis,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always say it's okay if art, and particularly music, it's okay if music takes you to dark places as long as it doesn't leave you there.
Yeah, Akira mentions, I'm not entirely sure what's referring to, but Akira mentioned the Smiths.
Well, you're a big Smiths fan, or certainly bigger than I am anyway.
I'll give you guys my favorite song by the Smiths, and it's What She Said. And it's such a great song. I call it a bunny hop song. There are certain songs that have a bunny hop kind of beat to it, and that one is definitely one of them. And it's a very short song, and it should be like twice as long because I just listen to it on repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, What She Said by the Smiths.
Yeah, we mentioned before, we've been catching up on some artists that we knew and in some cases really liked for decades, like going back to the 80s, and catching up on them live, bands we'd never seen live. And some of them have been great to see, and surprising, and some of them have been, oh yeah, that was not really worth seeing. So, Amy, Kraftwerk?
Oh, well, Kraftwerk is great to listen to, and it's...
But going to see them.
Going to see them, you have to understand what you're getting into first. We didn't really. My friend and I went the other night, and it was more of a visual kind of auditory experience, but the band members didn't move.
When you think of Kraftwerk, you think of four guys standing at keyboards and computers?
They stood for 2 hours straight.
And that's exactly what the live show was.
They were standing at their computer, iPad, ports, whatever they were.
Now, they did have light-up suits on, so there was,
yes,
they had lights on their
the light-up
suits.
suits coordinated with the background lighting and
they just
also
stood
the
there.
understage lighting, and it was interesting. Some of it was 90s clip art, but that was okay. It was kind of fun.
So I mentioned that because we've been seeing shows, again, from artists we've loved for decades, or at least known for decades, and some of them have been, well, okay, that was okay.
It was sort of the kind of concert that you would go to if you really wanted to pay homage to the oldest member of the band, who happens to be 78 years old, and you really wanted to support him and tell him how much you love him by your reaction as an audience member. Other than that, there is no real engaging the audience.
No, the reason I mention it is we'd say, okay, Kraftwerk, no. I mean, you can give a more complicated answer than that, but there's a reason I'm putting it this way. Kraftwerk, no. What about Morrissey?
You want my opinion about Morrissey's concert?
Is Morrissey yes or no?
Yes, I liked it?
Yes.
Okay. That's my answer.
Well, let me give my answer, and you'll understand what I mean. Kraftwerk, no. Morrissey, yes. And I couldn't name a single song Morrissey's ever done. I could only name one or two Smith songs. So I was surprised.
Yeah.
What did you think?
In detail?
Morrissey. Well, I don't know how much detail you want to get into. The point I'm making doesn't require a lot of detail.
Morrissey is a really excellent showman, and he really draws you in and engages you, and you feel like he's personally talking to you, and it's a wonderful experience. And he's very stylized, and he has great talent and a beautiful singing voice, and I recommend it.
Yeah. So, and we've said before, do meet your heroes. But yeah, go to those shows. The Morrissey, again, I'm not a Smiths fan. I'm not a Morrissey fan. And to me, the music sounds kind of whiny. Show was not like that at all. Great show. Great show.
Yeah, and as far as Kraftwerk, know before you go.
If you want to watch four guys standing there and kind of a sometimes cool light show and visuals. Who goes to a rock concert to see visuals? See, I'm a rock and roll guy. I want to see people playing instruments.
It might be, some people might be on drugs.
Yeah. But couldn't you just put on their album at home and turn it up real loud? Well, but that wouldn't be the same as seeing massive screen and visuals.
If you really idolize these people, and Kraftwerk has been around for 55 years. They started in 1970. They're real pioneers of their time, and they really have carried on their band, which has about 20 members in it, in and out throughout the years. So just breathing the same air as one of the original members was a wonderful experience for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm not criticizing anybody who does like that experience. But, know what you're getting yourself into. So, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed hanging out with us. We've enjoyed hanging out with you. It has certainly put me in a good mood. Yes. And, never sell yourself short. You can control your state, your moods, your self-image, your self-esteem, depending on how you manage your focus. As Amy said, never underestimate the power of an affirmation. I mentioned Ted Lasso, and there's one of the characters in there, for example, after talking to their sports psychologist, you hear him reciting his mantra, "I am a strong and capable man." Just saying that to yourself out loud doesn't make you a strong and capable man, but what it does is it reminds you that you have been strong and you have been capable, and even if you weren't feeling it in this moment, just saying it out loud, bringing it, as you say, Amy, into the air and into your experience. It's not lying to yourself. It's reminding yourself of something that is true that you already know, but you're not feeling in that moment. Never underestimate the power of a good affirmation and the wisdom of a good aphorism. We'll revisit those at some point, but if you look up 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, you will see we did a whole show on aphorisms and a whole show on affirmations, and we're not done yet. But folks, thanks. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's really all I wanted to say tonight. Mm-hmm. And I was in the mood to do a show called In the Mood and talk about my mood and yours too. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you want to support the show, please do click like on YouTube. As I mentioned before, Facebook Live, which we also simulcast to, and some of you are watching this on Facebook Live. Oh, I forgot to bring up the Facebook Live chat. Son of a gun. I apologize if I have not been answering any chat from Facebook, but here's what's going on. We're going to keep simulcasting to Facebook, but they are making a change. On Facebook, they are going to now be erasing any... Oh, yeah, there we are. They are a fictional band, and their concerts are normally an epic hologram show, the Gorillas. See, I missed some great stuff here. I apologize for that, and I'm just catching up here. But yeah, Facebook is going to where... Oh man, there's some really good stuff in the Facebook chat. Thanks, guys. I will catch up on some of it after the show. Facebook Live changed, where they now only keep your Facebook Live videos up for a month. And also, they're slowly starting to delete all of the previous ones that are over a month old. They didn't just delete them all right away, but they send me a notification every week about, well, here's the latest video that you did that we're deleting. So if you ever want to look at back catalog topics on 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, like our show on affirmations, like our show on aphorisms, do it on YouTube. And that's why I say, if you are watching on YouTube, please do me a favor and like the show. Give the show a like. If you really thought there was something in it interesting, or you just want to have somebody look at the back chat and see what you had to say, please share the show on your social media platforms and your email by carrier, pigeon, or smoke signal, whichever systems you're using to message and chat with your friends. If you want to support the show financially, and kudos, merci, big heartbeat to those of you who already do, patreon.com/Robert Nasir. Or just go to robertnasir.com, go to the bottom of the page, and you will see links to Patreon, to PayPal, the ways that you can support the show directly. And with that said, we're done. We're out of here. And so are you. But real quick, we do wish you all of the success, all the good stuff, all the money and the love and the hugs and all the things
that you so richly deserve. We know you do, and that is why we are also sending you a big, heaping helping. It's steaming, it's hot, it's fresh. We are sending you